Leland Vittert, host of On Balance, joining us right now. Leland, what do you make of this new information? Are federal agents trying to send some sort of message to the public?
Well, anytime you get a story like this 1 month before a midterm election, you think to yourself, wow, number one. And number two, what is the motivation of whoever is leaking this? Bob Driscoll, former Assistant Attorney General, was on yesterday with us. And his sort of deducing was that this was members of the FBI trying to pressure the U.S. Attorney in Delaware to make a decision. And this is a judgment call in terms of whether or not to charge Hunter Biden or not. You always have to point out at times like this, we really don't know the motivations of the leaks and also the fundamental unfairness of the leaks. Hunter Biden's attorney pointed that out as well. And you and I, Adrienne, talked during the Mar-a-Lago case a number of times about the fundamental unfairness of the leaks against President Trump. We have to point that out in this case as well. But either way, it puts enormous pressure not only on the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, it puts enormous pressure on the Attorney General and on the White House that they now have this large dark cloud hanging out there. And quite literally at any moment between now and the election, you could end up with a situation of Hunter Biden in handcuffs, which would obviously be quite inconvenient, if you might say, for the president.
The U.S. Attorney, David Weiss, a Trump appointee, must now decide whether to charge the president's son. What do you think he's likely weighing here?
Well, he's supposed to be weighing, is there a crime? And would, under ordinary circumstances, if this was Hunter Smith, would he be charged with a crime? The tax evasion charges are quite subjective in terms of whether or not that rises to the level of normally being charged. While it is criminal, typically those issues are dealt with civilly through fines and the like. And reportedly, Hunter Biden has paid all of his back taxes. The gun charge is a little bit more complicated and politically charged because this White House and this DOJ has told U.S. attorneys to be aggressive about charging gun crimes because they believe cracking down on the illegal purchase of firearms or lying on these forms, particularly for straw purchases, is really important. So therefore, how do you not charge this gun crime if you've charged others in the past? The other thing to think about here is that this has been a wide-ranging investigation. If you listen to sort of the far right or even the relatively moderate right within Congress, Hunter Biden is the head or the enabler in a large crime family. And yet, after an exhaustive FBI search that includes his laptop and everything else, if the only crimes they've come up with is tax evasion and a gun crime, that might be seen, at least in some circles, as a way to move on over the next 2 years for President Biden and the Biden administration from this very dark cloud and potential threats of whatever the Hunter Biden investigation was going to find.
Investigations into Hunter Biden have been going on for a few years now, since 2018. And former President Trump did try unsuccessfully to make this a big talking point, clearly over and over again during his reelection campaign. So what do you think is the timing element here, so close to midterms?
That's the great question. And, the DOJ typically has a freeze window, if you will, on any type of announcements before an election for about 60 days that could in any way be seen as political, and that they don't want to be seen as making any kind of investigative move 60 days before an election. And it's one of the reasons commentators thought that the Mar-a-Lago raid happened when it did. So the timing there is very important. The flip side of that, Adrienne, is that House Republicans have made no bones about the fact that if they win the majority in the House and therefore control the investigative powers of the various House committees and have subpoena power, Hunter Biden is either target number one or target number two behind Anthony Fauci and the DHS secretary. So the timing there may not really matter in that, at least going forward after the election, things could get really uncomfortable publicly for Hunter.
Leland, do you think that President Biden will say anything publicly about this?
Well, he has in the past, right? He said he doesn't think his son committed any crimes. He said he doesn't talk to his son about business dealings. He's made some other comments that the veracity of which are certainly questionable based on the evidence that we have. The president tried during the Mar-a-Lago raid to walk this line of saying, I'm not going to have anything to do with this. I haven't been briefed on it and the like. Even with the issue of Hunter Biden, he's trying to develop another cushion and another degree of distance between him by having Merrick Garland say, I have nothing to do with this, his attorney general pushing it even farther down. It would be really fascinating to see if the president's actually sort of pushed on this matter. And we've seen him support his son in the past and say that he's proud of him and the like. You'd have to wonder what the president's calculus would be in not supporting his son and what message that would send if pressed.
Leland, Vittert, we'll see you tonight on Balance. You can always watch, those of you at home, on Balance every single weeknight, 7 p.m., 6 Central Time. Our thanks to Leland.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.